Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. My name is George Herrera with the Queens Home Team at Keller Williams Realty. Today I'm answering the question, is now the right time to buy a property here in Queens? And if you've been renting, saving, if you've been thinking about buying, you might be wondering whether right now, January 2022, or in this year, if now is the right time to buy, or if you should wait, or whatever the case may be. But this is an age-old question, always asked by buyers who tend to try to time the market, but really it's just like the stock market. There is no timing the market, and what we always tell anyone who's thinking of buying is that you really have to buy when the time is right for you. So if you've been saving, if your credit is good, if you have your down payment liquid and you have it ready, and everything is aligned in your life preparing for that move, if you are in the position to buy, whether it's a property that you plan to live in or whether it's an investment property, if the time is right for you and the situation is, and your whole situation is all intact, then we think you should always be on the lookout. So this is something that, regardless, the only time that we think it's really not a good time to buy is, let's say, if your time horizon is shorter. So let's say, for example, 2022, right now, we know that we're expecting Fed rate hikes throughout the year, multiple Fed rate hikes, which will lead to mortgage interest rates going up. And so if you were planning to buy a property to flip, or if you're planning to buy a property and within the next 2 or 3 years to sell that property, then it might be advisable to wait or hold off, or be more careful with that decision. However, if you're planning to buy a property and you plan to live in it or hold it for 10 years or longer, then it really is irrelevant whether anything is happening this year or what's happening, because regardless of the fact, the real estate market is just like the stock market, where over long durations of time, over 10, 20 years, when you look into the long-term pattern, it's always up and to the right. So you can pretty much guarantee that if you buy a property, you're holding it for 10 years or more, regardless of what type of market you purchase that property in, most likely you will be in a positive 10, 15, 20 years down the road. Now, if your time horizon is shorter, like I mentioned previously, let's say an investor or someone looking to buy a property and flip it within a year, or buy a property and sell it within 2, 3, 4 years, that's a lot less predictable, and you could be in a position where if you buy in a shifting market, you could see yourself in a position where 3, 4 years down the road, the house might be worth, or the apartment might be worth less than what you actually paid for it. So that's when you want to be a little more careful. But if your time horizon is long for how long you plan to live in the property or hold the property that you're going to buy, then you really don't need to worry so much about that. It's more so, are you in a position to buy? And then in terms of this year, we're in January 2022. As I mentioned, we're already expecting multiple rate hikes. That means that mortgage interest rates will go up as those rate hikes get implemented. And so if you are looking and you're in a position right now, our advice would be definitely to get pre-approved, speak with a lender, get your pre-approval now so that you have an idea of what you can afford, and be on the lookout. Start getting on the hunt. My wife and I we get pre-approved at the beginning of every year just to see what we can afford, and we always like to be armed with a pre-approval and ready, because if you do come across a property that you like, the last thing you want to do is lose out on it because you're not ready to make a move, or to move on it quickly. So you always want to, at the beginning of the year, especially right now, I would say if you're in a position, your credit is good, your income is good, your employment history, your debt to income, if everything is lined up, it definitely makes sense to go ahead and speak with a lender and get pre-approved, see what you can qualify for, and get on the hunt. Be on the lookout. Even though inventory right now it is low, so right now in this first quarter, you might be facing a competitive market. Depending on the areas that you look in, you might actually be facing some competition. But either way, with mortgage rates on track to go up, it does make sense that if you can lock in a property while the rates are still low, then you would want to do that. but also there's no need to scramble, no need to get in a rush. Keep in mind that even a 4% interest rate on a mortgage is very low historically. So there's nothing to worry about. There's nothing that you need to panic about. Definitely I would say with what we know about the upcoming months and quarters for this year, it makes sense to go ahead and look into getting pre-approved now and get on the hunt. If you find something good, then you definitely, you can move on that. But if you don't find something that meets your criteria, you can definitely be waiting. But it doesn't hurt to just be armed with your pre-approval and be ready to make a move in the event that you come across something that you really like. Okay, so to answer that question, is now the right time to buy a property in Queens? If your time horizon is long, 10, 15, 20 years of how long you plan to live or hold the property, live in it, then I would say yes, now is the right time to buy. You want to take advantage of these low mortgage rates. They're not as low as they were last year, so they're already higher than that, but you're still in the low to mid threes from what we understand from conversations with lenders, which is still a great mortgage rate. So if you can buy something within the first quarter or two of this year, that's definitely advisable, and that would be some pretty good timing considering what we're expecting. But even if you had to wait and buy later on in the year, that doesn't hurt either. Even if you get a higher mortgage rate, most likely you'll still be at a historically low rate. Now, if you're looking to flip a property, or if you're looking to buy something and sell it within the next 3 to 5 years, shorter time horizon like that, it is more unpredictable. And so you can definitely buy something, but just know that there's no guarantee that 3 to 5 years from now that property will be worth more than what you paid now. If you want some more insight on something like that, so if you're looking to buy a property and sell it within the next, let's say, 6 months to 5 years, a shorter time horizon, reach out to us and we can give you some advice on what particular neighborhood, what area, and what projections we might have for that area. But if your time horizon is longer, there's no need to worry. Over time, your property most likely will be worth more than what you paid for it, and it's more so a question of, are you ready and prepared to actually buy a property? So my advice would be, being that it's January, February, we're in the beginning of the year, I think it's always a good idea to speak with a lender. We have some great people if you need any recommendations, and talk with them to get an idea of what you can afford right now, and then at least you have a budget to work with as you start to look at properties online and inquire on potential properties that you might like to buy. All right, so hopefully that answers the question, everybody. Thanks as always for tuning in. As always, if you have any questions, you can drop them in the comments below. And if you have any ideas or topics that you'd like us to discuss on the channel, just drop them in the comments, and we're shooting videos every week. So anything that you leave in the comments, we're definitely reading them, and we're taking them in and adding them to our content list and our content calendar for the upcoming year. All right, thanks as always for tuning in. Stay tuned for next week for the next episode. Take care. Have a great day.